just want to talk to you about the books that I read in October. One of my friends on Instagram, she was actually co-hosting a buddy read of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, and of course I had to join in. I watched the Netflix series last year when it came out, and to me there were holes in the story. It could have been so much better than it was, and I was hoping that the book would be better, so I decided to join in to see what was what. First published in 1959, people tout this as one of the classic supernatural stories. So basically it's the story of Hill House, super haunted spooky house, word is out about it, but four seekers go to the house to explore and see exactly what is what. As they're staying in, things are happening in the house. Meanwhile, the house itself is actually gathering its strength to choose one of them as its own. Yeah, no. I had all this hope and faith that the book would redeem the whole story compared to the Netflix series. And in this case, to me, actually the show was better than the book. It's hard for me to really get scared when reading, but I was expecting something creepy, something that had me on edge, nervous, things like that. None of that. I ended up giving it 2 stars. It fell so flat for me. The goal was to stick with only spooky reads for October, but when my library hold of the Nickel Boys came through, I had to put the horror and the creepy, the thrillers on pause and give this a go. I read The Underground Railroad when it came out. I didn't love it as much as everyone else loved it. Last summer there was a buddy read for Sag Harbor. I ended up abandoning. I still would like to finish just because I'm one of those people that I have to finish a book. I can't like completely DNF it. Even if I put it down for a while, I always have hopes that I'll go back to it and be able to knock it out. What drew me to this is that it's based on a true story on a boys' home, kind of for juvenile delinquents, boys in trouble, during the 1960s Jim Crow era. I'm struggling to say that today, era. In the South, and the horrible, despicable acts that were inflicted upon the boys. Really thought this was gonna rip my heart out. I bought it when it was first released, and I didn't pick it up. I was so afraid that my sensitive little self wasn't gonna be able to handle the horrific things that were done to these boys. Horrible as the story is, I just did not have a connection to the characters like I wish that I did. It did make me curious to actually want to do my own research to find out what actually happened to the boys. It's touched upon a little bit how things were discovered and found out, but to dive more in depth. But as far as a connection with the book, I didn't love it. I ended up giving it 3 stars, really a 2.5. And finally, what I just knew was gonna be the pièce de résistance of my month of October horror spooky reading. Finally, I tackled it. I've been wanting to read it forever, for years, but I was always just kind of hesitant because it's such a chunker of a book. And as much as I loved Stephen King when I was younger, I don't know now in life, I don't know, just like his word vomit, just like how he's over wordy. I don't know if it's my anxiety or what it is, but it's hard to focus on that and blah, 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 whatever. I still decided to give it a go. And you guys struggle bus like half of the month. Struggled so long and hard with this book that my hold expired and somebody else was waiting, so I had to take a time out, which was probably the best thing to happen to me. And then when I got it back, I knocked it out, but I just didn't love it. I didn't love it. I didn't love it, you guys, and I really wanted to love it. I'm sure you guys all know about Pennywise and It, the story of this clown type demon that does these horrible things. The kids, they find out, blah, 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 and they're on a mission to find out what's really happening to the kids that are being murdered in their area during their youth. And so everyone moves away as an adult, but things start happening again in their hometown. So they're called back to try to once again destroy this evil entity, figure out what it is, and how to stop it. It could have been so awesome for me if the book had been like 200 pages shorter.
If not more.
But I don't know, it was just so wordy and rambling and on and on and on and on and on and The racial slurs, like, it was all just a bit much. It was a bit much, and I didn't love it. Am I glad that I read it? Yes, it's over with. Now I can finally watch the movies. I've always held off on watching them, the old one from back in the day and the new remakes, because I wanted to read the book. So that's a good thing. At least I can watch the movies now. So perusing around the gram, one of my friends posted about Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And I was like, why does this sound familiar? Why does this sound familiar? Have I read any Ray Bradbury? I don't know, whatever, F it. I'm gonna see if I can get the audiobook. And so I actually did and knocked it out. You guys, seriously, this was probably the highlight of my reading month. I enjoyed it so much, so perfect for Halloween. So good. As I was listening to the audiobook, I realized that I have read this, or I don't know if there was a cartoon when I was little or whatever, but I was totally familiar and knew the story, but that didn't bore me or make my interest wane. Absolutely loved it and flew through it. So good. It's the story of two young boys in their hometown. A carnival suddenly appears out of nowhere one day, like a week before Halloween. And all of these creepy suspect things, real susseries happening in town. They try to get to the bottom of what's going on, what's happening, why are the rides doing creepy things? I don't want to give too much away. Why are the rides doing creepy things to people? What's happening? Is there a way to reverse it? Why are people acting the way that they're acting? What's really going on with the creepy carnival people and this creepy AF carnival that appeared out of nowhere? So fun. So fun, so good. I gave it 4 stars. Glad I got to revisit this. It made my little spooky heart happy last month. Next up, another book that I've wanted to read forever, 40 Acres by Dwayne Alexander. Yep. Another pleasant surprise for creepy spooky month. I've always heard really good things about this one, and it did not disappoint. It's the story of Martin Gray, a young black lawyer who is on the rise in his career and is showing promises of being super successful in his career path. Somehow he is invited to an event with the most influential black men in the country. Powerful, rich, held in high regard, just cream of the top, elite businessmen. They become friends. They invite Martin for a weekend away from the wives. No cell phones, no talk of business, none of this, just a good old guy's trip out in nature to just get away from it all and reset. Hilarity and hijinks ensue. Just kidding. Creepy thriller. The pacing was great. The character development was good. Story was awesome. The plot, everything. I can't say enough good things about this one. You guys, if you haven't read it and you like thrillers, definitely pick it up. Oh, loving it. Loving it. Not gonna give too much away, but there's a twist. Things happen. Things go awry. Very interesting read. I gave this one 4 stars. When you hear Joe Hill has a new release coming out, you make sure you're one of the first people to put it on hold at your library. And I did. Full Throttle by Joe Hill is a collection of short stories of the thriller and horror genre. You guys, I love Joe Hill. I love him so much. So much. I've read a few things by him. I've read Nosferatu. I've read Rafe, the graphic novel accompaniment that goes with that, as well as Heart-Shaped Box, which I absolutely loved. Horns has been on my list forever. I have had it forever. I need to read it. But Full Throttle. Sucks to say, but I didn't love it. There were a lot of stories, a lot of good ideas, premises, but just not everything was enough to capture my interest. The few stories that I did love, I loved and were so good and so creepy. And I wish that they were longer, actually a book in themselves. But overall, I gave this one 3 stars. Just not everything was interesting enough. I'm not a super fan of short stories because if I do love it, then I want more of it. And if I don't love it, it's generally because there's just not enough development of story or character or anything like that. So it has nothing to do with the plot ideas and the stories. They were interesting, but just not all of them grabbed me in. And if you guys are interested and if you love Stephen King, he did write 2 of the stories included with his dad ended up giving this one 3 stars. That's it for October. 6 books. It wasn't my greatest month, but to be honest, since I was tackling it, I didn't even think that I would get to that many. I thought I'd read maybe like 2 books, 3 at the max. So I am happy, and the fact that 2 of them were 4-star reads, it's always a good thing. So how did October go for you guys? Did you discover any new spooky favorites? If so, shout out below. Let me know. I'm always looking for horror and thriller things to add to my TBR, because that's the kind of chick that I am. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in seeing more content from me, please subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.